Hi, in this video I'm going to talk about control structures in Solidity. So our content is if-else statements, for loops, and while loops. So let us start with if-else statements. An if statement is used to execute a block of code only if a certain condition is true. An else statement can be added to execute a different block of code if the condition is false. So in this regard, here is our statement x greater than 10. If it's true, we'll return x plus 1. If it's not true, we'll return x minus 1. So to optimize gas usage when using if-else statements, it's important to keep the conditions simple and avoid using complex logic. Additionally, you can use a ternary operator to write more concise code. You might be familiar with ternary operator from other programming languages like Java. So it's the same logic, but we are using a different syntax. For example, here is our statement x greater than 10. If it's true, we are questioning it with question mark. We'll return x plus 1, which is the true statement, and if it's not true, we'll return false statement, which is x minus 1. For loops. A for loop is used to execute a block of code a specific number of times based on a given condition. So in this regard, we have a variable I, and it starts from 0, and here is our statement. We say that do the same logic until it reaches until it's not greater than 10. If it's less than 10, then we are controlling that variable with I++. So to optimize gas usage when using for loops, it's important to minimize the number of iterations as much as possible. You can use break to get rid of unnecessary loops. So that's also important. If you reach a value that you need to break the statement, and it's the same logic in other programming languages as well, because if we reach the value, we don't need to loop through all the for example, lists or the values that we have in the for loop. So while loops. A while loop is used to execute a block of code repeatedly while a certain condition is true. So here we are basically using the same logic with for loops, and we can say that every for loop can be converted to while loop and vice versa. So in this regard, we have a while block, and in this block we are saying that okay, number greater than 0. If it's greater than 0, we can continue looping. So to be able to control this variable, we need a control variable as well, because in for loop we had that variable, and we again need that variable, and we are controlling it by number minus, and we return the value of number here. So we'll see a while loop example in our editor, and we'll understand what I mean by that. So to optimize gas usage when using while loops, it's important to make sure that the condition will eventually become false to avoid infinite loops. So let us switch to our editor. Here I have a file, and in this file I have some functions. So first if-else function, and in this function I'm getting a parameter, and it's a pure function since I don't read any of the state variables. I don't have a state variable here. And here I have my condition x greater than 10, and if it's true, then I will return x plus 1. If it's not true, I will return x minus 1. So you might confuse with this because I didn't use else statement. Since I cannot run any code after return statement, we can directly say that return x minus 1, because if this statement is executed, this is not going to be executed. So it automatically says that okay, I will return x minus 1, and I don't need to use else statement. But you can also use else statement as well. It doesn't really matter, but this is a good programming habit if you can directly return the value. So here I have a for loop, and it's a public function and a pure function as well, and it returns uint, and I have a stop parameter here. It's a uint, and I have a local variable called sum, and I'm just saying that increment the value of sum by I until it reaches the stop value, and when it's reached, then we can break the for loop, and we don't need to check for the other values. For example, our stop variable is 5, but it's going to 10. We don't need to check 6, 7, 8 because it's not necessary. We want to stop here. So then we return the sum, and here in a while loop function, I have a number parameter, and it's a public and pure function, and it returns uend. And I have a count variable 0, and I'm checking if number is not equal to 0, then count plus plus. Every time I get into this loop, then it's going to be incremented by 1. And I need to control that loop variable, which is number, because I don't want to get into infinite loop. So I just say that minus minus. So every time I get into this function, count will be incremented by 1, and it should be this number. Okay, so let us deploy this contract and see our results. So for loop, let us say 5, meaning that it will sum up all the values until 5. Okay, I get a good result. And here in if else statement, so let's say it's greater than 10, so let's say 12, then I need to return this value, which is 13. Okay, for this example. And if it's something less than 10, for example 3, it should return this line, and let's say okay, it's 2. So here I need to give a parameter for a number, so let's say 5, meaning that 5 times I will get into this loop, and 5 times this count variable will be incremented, and it should be a 5 as well. So let's see, it's 5. So everything works all right. So try to play around with this code, try to write it on your own, and try to change some variables, maybe the logic itself on your own. And these are the backbone of the Solidity programming language, like in other programming languages. So just try to get used to with them. So that's gonna do it for this video. I will see you in the next one.